So, here we are in our continuation of doing the work to be present to our theme for the year, Oneness, a Day at a Time. And as always, I want to start with a few spiritual principles. This is by Ernest Holmes, titled What We Believe. If you want to get a copy of it, you want to do a search for it. I always start my talks with some principles to help get me centered and anchored in the message, and it might do the same for you. So this morning we are working with spiritual principle number 1, and it states, we believe in God, the living spirit, almighty one, indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but it is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. Spiritual principle number 8. We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind, which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. And spiritual principle number 5, we believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. This year, in our efforts, we are continuing to sever our ties from any sense of separation through affirming our oneness daily. We are engaged in letting go of our thoughts of lack and limitation. We are engaged in letting go of our thoughts of fear. That is the work that we are to do daily, daily, daily. Because if we spent a fraction of the time thinking about the God within me, thinking about the divine that is within me, thinking about the opulence that is within me, thinking about the intelligence that is within me, if we spent as a fraction of the time that we think about money, thinking about God, then truly we would know, as our theme states, that all of our needs are met. In the book, The Inner Life by Rufus R. Jones, on page 19, he says, once more we find ourselves brought to an inner way of living, where the issue is no longer how to accumulate goods, but rather how to become good. The problem is the problem of what men live by. We are called to loosen our grip on perishable treasures, only that we may tighten our hold on heavenly, i.e., spiritual treasure. We are shown the folly of spending a life building barns for expanding earthly possessions, while we are taking no pains to make ourselves rich in God. In our practice, then, each of us must know, and we should know, that you can get no more out of it than you put into it. You can get nothing more from the principles and the practices than what you put into it. Is all you can expect to get out of it. So, just as much as we come here on Sundays to be encouraging and to be an inspiration to each other, we come here as well to change. Every Sunday, every class, every opportunity we get together, it is an opportunity for us to change. So we are here, or we come here on Sundays to disturb the spirit. We come here on Sundays to disrupt our old ways of thinking and our old thought patterns. We come here so that we can identify our limiting beliefs, and so we can take responsibility for what we think and what we feel. And in taking responsibility, or what taking responsibility means, is that we create, excuse me, or we be willing to come into a new way of thinking about a thing. That we be willing to come into a new way of thinking and a new way of feeling about an old thing, perhaps. So, disturbances then on Sunday is not a cause for you to leave. If your soul gets disturbed by something that I say, it's not a cause for you to leave. In fact, that's probably true about all our relationships. Harm, yes. If I harm you, leave. But if I disturb you, it's not a cause to leave. Everybody with me? Okay. So, don't let your, let me back up. And so, you'll know you're disturbed when all you can think about is me. And not you. You disturbed. Okay? Okay. So, don't let your disturbance derail your creativity, because we're here to create. Let your disturbance be the fuel in your creation. See, we're not here just simply to change. We are here because we want to experience a profound transformation. We want our life to look so completely different. Oh, you understand what I'm saying? I want to be so completely different. It's not just that we are changing a little bit. No, completely different. That's the goal. Free from all discord. That is the goal. We want to be different. So, I said all that to say there's a good chance that a few of you might be disturbed today by the words that are coming out of my mouth. But it's not cause for you to leave. Because this is the month that bumps up against our pledge program where I talk about abundance. This is the month where I talk about prosperity. This is the month where I talk about money. This is the month where I talk about how to secure the bag. This is the month where I talk about the moolah, baby. The money, the money, the money, the money, the money, the money, the money. Anybody disturbed? Don't raise your hands. Already done warned you. This is the money we talk about. This is the month we talk about the money. Why? Because money is spiritual. It's spiritual. So let us find out then if we have any reluctancy to change. If there's any reluctancy within ourselves to change our thinking about money. See, our minds are cluttered with opinions, with our opinions about money. And it is your opinions that limit your experience with money. So, whatever then we've told, it's like this, whatever we've told, you've heard it with, when we talk about Lao Tzu and a way of life, and he says that if we can define God, that ain't God. Same thing, if we can define money, if we let our opinions inform and define money, that ain't it. That ain't it. So, In this teaching, it is said that it is without without dogma, and that there's no rules. We don't have rules or dogma to speak of. However, you can make no claim of any principle working in your life without the full Yeah, we got to be. All right. So, let me say this again. While there's no dogma and there's no rules, you cannot make claim of any principle working in your life without the full application of the principle in your life. What am I saying? You've got to do something with what you get. You've got to do something with the knowledge. You've got to do something with the insight. You've got to do something with the revelation. We talk about change. And when we change our thinking and when we change our minds, when we become available to insight, when we become open to receive, we've got to do something with what we receive. In other words, we've got to do something with the 10%. No, let me say it like this. We've got to do 10% of something. I ain't saying this right. We've got to be willing to do at least 10% of what we receive from the 100% that we would get, right? So when you come in here, your experience of love is at 100%, you've got to do something with 10% of that 100%. Are y'all with me? You've got to at least give 10% of what you receive. You got to do something with what you get. You should tell your neighbor, you got to at least do 10% with everything that you get. You got to at least give 10% of everything that you get. The law of supply states that supply always exceeds the demand. There's always more than enough. The 10% that you do something with will be replenished. It's more than enough, but it cannot come into manifestation until a demand is made upon it. But here's the thing. As we make a demand upon the law to give us, the law makes a demand upon us to give. You got to do something with the 10% of your 100%. You got to do something with the love that you get. 10%. Give 10% love. So we're talking about money, and I know you got in your head that I'm talking about money, and I am, let me be clear. But if you can't give 10% of your money, you can't give 10% of love. It's impossible. Money is easy. It's the easy thing to give. Try forgiving 10%. Listen, 10% is all the time, in case you don't know. Try loving 10% of the time. Try being patient 10% of the time. Try being patient 10% of the time. Money is the easy part. If you can't give 10% of your money, what we do with our money is a barometer for those of us who call ourselves spiritual. You want to know how spiritual you are? Check out what you do with your money. Do you hold on to it? Do you bury it? Are you checking it all the time? Check out what you're doing with your money. We've got to be aware that we have something to do with what we receive. We are called to be stewards of our treasures. We are called to make wise decisions with our treasures. In the teaching of Ptah-hotep, one of the oldest books that offers us life lessons, in it says, help your friends with things that you have. For you have these things by the grace of God. If you don't give, you're selfish. If you don't give 10% of the love that you receive away, consider you're selfish. If you're not willing to forgive at least 10% of the time, consider you're selfish. If you're not willing to give the joy that you experience away to another, to let your energy and your light be the light and the energy in the room, you might be a little selfish. It says, don't be selfish. If you fail to help your friends, one will say you have selfish ka. One plans for tomorrow, but you do not know what tomorrow will bring. The right soul is the soul by which one is sustained. The right soul is the one who is sustained in oneness. The right soul is the one who is sustained in God. The right soul is the one who is sustained by its source. The right soul is the one who is sustained by its substance. The right soul is the soul who knows from where my good comes from. And that it is by the grace of God that I got 100%. And all I need do is give 10%. You might have heard that to whom much is given, much is expected. It's the Bible verse from Luke 12:48. And I read a version like this. It says, from everyone who has been given much, much will be demanded. You got to do something with what you got. You've got to do something with what you got. I recently heard that every spending decision is a spiritual decision. Every spending decision is a spiritual decision. Why? Because we've got to do something with what we have. And us doing and what we do with what we have matters. We should be conscious and aware of what we're doing with what we have. It matters that if I have my 10% to give and I give it to you begrudgingly, or if I give it to you expectantly, or if I give it to you and I really don't want to give it to you, it matters. Every spending decision is a spiritual decision because it matters. Whatever we create, whatever we manifest, whatever we draw to ourselves, in form and experiences, we must take responsibility for. Whatever we create, whatever we draw to ourselves, we must take responsibility for. We don't get to create and not take responsibility. You can't create substance, money, joy, love, peace, and not take responsibility for it. You have to take responsibility for it. So that's the thing that stands in the way between you and me and our freedom, is our unwillingness to take responsibility for what we've created in our life. Our unwillingness to take responsibility for the abundance that we've created in our life. We don't want to take responsibility. And so that gets in the way of our abundance. We fear. We fear that we don't have enough, so we hold on to what we have, clinging to it tightly. We bury it, and so no one can find it. I'm talking about money, but I'm talking about life. We hold on tight to our love, too tightly. We hold on too tightly to our patience, unwilling to give it. We bury it, not taking responsibility for it. 10%, 10% we must give. So it's with anything. Love, truth, forgiveness. You got to do something with the 10% of the 100% that you got. Tell your neighbor, do something with the 10%. Do something with the 10%. Understanding that supply makes a demand on us, as I've said. Being aware and understanding that we have to do something with what we receive is the difference between a life lived at the line of just enough. Just enough means you don't have to take responsibility because you only got just enough. You ain't got extra to do something with. I'm talking about money, y'all. How to get the bag, the moolah, baby. You got to do something with the 10% of the 100% that you got. And that's not living at a life of just enough. If you don't want to take responsibility for it, or perhaps you can see in your life where maybe you haven't been willing to take responsibility for it, because all you got is just enough. It's the difference between just enough and more than enough. Taking responsibility for what we creates more than enough. And our responsibility with more than enough is to do something with 10% of it. Do something with it. We are to have insight and we are to have oversight. To whom much has been given, much is expected. Insight and oversight. 10% of the 100%, do something with it. Do something with it. Don't hold on to it. Don't bury it, because all you'll end up with is just enough. When we change our thinking, when we change our minds, it's not that we become willing to do something with what we have. It's not that we might do something with what we have, but when we change our mind, when we change our thinking, and when we change our mind, we must do something with what we have. We must do something with 10%. We must do something with the 10%. We must, not might, not will, we must do something with the 10%. We must do something with the 10%. Not might, not will, I must. I'm talking about the money. I'm talking about how to secure the bag. I'm talking about the moolah, baby. We must do something with the 10%. I think y'all got it. Let's pray. Practitioners. Let us take this moment then to turn within. As we center ourselves and anchor ourselves in the message for today, let us know truly that it is from God, from the divine power and presence that is everywhere and yet is just one. So though the words may have flowed through me today, it is just one mind. Not separate and apart from you and I, it is just one mind. Let that sink in for a second as we unite with this mind, affirming its ideas and its words that have flowed through us today for us. As we know that we are ever one with this power and this presence, this lavish and unfailing substance and abundance of our lives that is within us, let us declare and decree today then that we are so aware of the 100% of lavish abundance, so aware of the goodness that we receive, that we are always know that we must do something with 10% of it. Let us affirm and know today that when we walk up out of here, we're giving away 10% of our love. No questions asked. We are ready to be on high and to forgive anybody that might disturb us today. It's just a disturbance. And let me know that for you and let me know it for myself. It's simply a disturbance to remind me to give what I already have, to give a little bit of patience, to give a little bit of joy, to give a little bit of hope, to give a little bit of forgiveness, to give a little bit of kindness, to give a little bit of patience, and if you're so bold, to give a little bit of money. 10% of the 100% of what we already have. Let us know that as we give then, that the demand is infinite. And as the demand is infinite, the supply is even greater. There is no time then that we can outgive the giver. Oh, let us get this in our soul today. Let it move you and let it move me into becoming more aware of that which I already have. Let it move you and let it move me to become more willing to give. Let it move you and let it move me to become more affirming in life that I must give. That I must give. No longer holding back, no longer burying, no longer holding too tightly, no longer fearing. We let it go. And let us be moved into a state of thanksgiving for the 90% that we do have. Let us rejoice for all that we do have. Let us give thanks for all the love that we do have. Let us give thanks for all the joy that we do have. Let us give thanks for all the truth that we do have. Let us give thanks for all the understanding that we do have. Let us give thanks for all the knowledge that we do have. Let us give thanks for all the money that we do have. Grateful, so that you and I might plan and that the God within us then can execute. Grateful. I'm so moved in this moment to just simply releasing my word, turning it over into the law, knowing it to be so. As it is a divine idea in the mind of God, it must be an experience in the human side of life. Let us accept this as being so. Let us claim it to be so now. As we release our word, we say, and so it is. Yes, and so as we journey on throughout our week, let us remember that our true spiritual quotient is what we do with what we already have. Do something with your 10%. You must, and so it is.